Hello and welcome back to Walk the Cinema podcast, where we walk the cinema so we can talk the cinema. Today's episode is 2001: A Space Odyssey. So why don't you give us a little synopsis of the movie, because I feel like I can't accurately describe the movie.
I feel like I can't either. This is a scary one for me.
Yeah, it's very culturally significant, I would say, to a lot of people.
Yeah. So, I mean, people know what 2001: A Space Odyssey is, I would assume. It's sci-fi adventure about a team of scientists on a spacecraft going on a quest, and there's a super intelligent computer on board that's tasked with completing it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So that creates issues further down the line.
Yeah,
But that's not how it starts.
No, I was kind of surprised how it started, to be honest, because this is the first time I've ever seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I had kind of some expectations going into it. Like I knew it was going to be a space movie, and there was going to be like a problem with
It's in the name.
Yeah, I know, but like, I knew it was going to be a space movie, and then there was going to be problems with the computer kind of taking over. But I wasn't expecting like the first 30 to 45 minutes where we're not even really there yet. And I also wasn't expecting the lack of dialogue, I guess.
I don't think there's dialogue for the first half an hour, at least. There's not a single word.
Yeah, exactly. It relies very heavily on its soundtrack, and
I think the soundtrack is great, because I see people saying this is visually incredible. I think the audio is incredible.
I have to agree, because anytime there's silence or there's non-dialogue parts, like I always felt a little eerie. Like he did a very good job at making you kind of feel uncomfortable and uneasy in a lot of different...
It's very purposeful. The use of silence or the use of certain music, it always has some meaning. And it serves to portray an emotion that Stanley Kubrick wants you to feel or expects you to feel. So yeah, the audio worked really well. Yeah, it opens with the monkeys, which is the dawn of men. That was like a pretty good 25 minutes.
And it was very unexpected to me, at least. I wasn't expecting to kind of watch this dawn of man type thing, but it also...
Well, it connects to the end with the black monolith on the surface of the planet.
Yeah.
It connects to the end, but the monolith has its powers, I guess.
Yeah,
its higher function, and it makes the monkeys start to evolve just by touching it. They start using tools.
Yeah, it's very much like extraterrestrial in its nature, I guess. And then, we kind of move on till millions of years later when we have space travel.
The main plot.
And they find another monolith on the surface of the moon.
I find it pretty incredible how accurate Stanley Kubrick predicted the year 2001.
Yeah.
It's basically, I was just like, I lived this.
I don't know how accurate it was, because we definitely aren't there with the space travel yet.
I think it's scientifically renowned as being accurate. It was just not there. It just missed a year. But the processes aren't too far from what I could tell.
Yeah, and I have to also say that a lot of the shots are just so beautiful.
They are. Again, when I said that some people say it's visually striking, and I mentioned the audio, is because I don't see people mentioning the audio as much. But yes, it's visually great.
Yeah, it's visually very beautiful, and I also kind of wasn't expecting that. This movie just kind of surprised me a lot, and I've only seen one other Stanley Kubrick movie, and that's The Shining, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, because I've been wanting to rewatch it. But They're very, I don't know, there's like some things that I feel like are very similar to it, and also things that are very different, you know? But I don't know. I don't know Stanley Kubrick's work well enough to know if this was like.
Well, the thing about Kubrick is that, he tackles every type of genre.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no really, like, knowing Kubrick, because he's always trying to outdo himself or, like, reach into new areas of filmmaking.
Hmm.
So he has his war movies, he has his epics with Spartacus, he has his like more modern type stories with Lolita and Eyes Wide Shut. So Kubrick is hard, right? That's why I'm not super enthusiastic on this episode. I guess it's like, I'm a little scared.
Why are you scared?
I don't know what to say, right? It's one of those movies that everything has been said about it.
That's
more so than The Shining. Because The Shining is still a little open for interpretation. I guess this one's a little less open.
I don't know.
Even with the ending.
I feel like I did do some reading about the ending before we did this episode, and I guess we can either just talk about that now or we can wait. I don't know. But
you go ahead.
Okay, so I guess they had like the book version or the novelization of 2001: A Space Odyssey, and in the novelization it's more along the line, like it kind of explains that the aliens or the extraterrestrial life kind of have made a zoo out of the monolith, or the monolith is like when he goes into this room, it's kind of like a zoo, like a human zoo.
Yeah, where he loses track or like loses notion of timeline and just sees himself older.
Yeah, and the room is like a French colonial.
It looks French.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a mixture of French and spacecraft.
Yeah, so it's kind of like he was talking about it as if it's a zoo because the aliens don't know what a typical human habitat is. Mm-hmm. Just like we don't necessarily know a animal's natural habitat and a zoo. You kind of just piece together things that you see typically, I guess, but it's not perfect. So it's kind of like a zoo, and then they like send him back once he's finished or his life span has ended.
So that's the book.
Yeah, and that's a book, and that's...
But Kubrick is known for straying away from what the author wants.
Yeah, but...
That's why King hates The Shining, right?
Which is crazy to me.
So I don't know how much Kubrick's intentions with the ending relate to the book.
I don't know, but I did see that Kubrick had an interview sometime in the 80s that was like never released, or I'm not really sure, but he talked about it being like a zoo, and that interpretation is, fine. But I don't really know how to interpret the ending. But I also...
Because we see him being observed by the giant baby in uterus.
Yeah.
They call it Star Child.
Yeah.
And that's... I don't know. I don't think it's supposed to be literal. Uh-huh. It's more of a force. But yeah, the ending is definitely not something you can grab hold of. It's very out there.
Yeah, and I don't know. I also felt like I was watching several different movies at the same time. You know what I mean?
It's because this was so influential. That's why it feels like that.
I know, but it's so crazy.
Because a lot of movies just took this as inspiration.
Yeah, because we all know about how, like, I don't know a single person that doesn't at least kind of get the reference to HAL 9000. Mm-hmm. You see it in movies like WALL-E has something similar. Even to a lesser extent, like the movie we just watched, The Mitchells versus the Machines, where you kind of have the machine taking over after being programmed to like help humans and stuff. So
that's why at some point Alexa's gonna get tired of you asking for her to play TikTok songs.
I don't.
And it's just gonna snap and take over.
You're just talking about in general, because I don't do that stuff.
Yeah, we don't have an Alexa.
No. But yeah, the how part of the movie, again, since I haven't seen it and I haven't like analyzed it too much, I'm kind of just thinking out loud here, but was Hal, did he make that mistake on purpose, or was it an actual true mistake?
I think it's purposeful. It's to not to sabotage the humans, but to complete the mission, to guarantee completion. I think that's its main objective.
Well, why do you think he had to kill everyone besides Dave, I guess, in order to complete the mission?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So that's kind of like where I'm at. Like, was this a plot all along in order to complete the mission because he is the perfect computer? Or did he really have a malfunction, and just like humans, I feel like he was human enough that he would probably feel some sort of injury to his pride and to, his intelligence, I guess?
Well, I think he maybe felt threatened because they talked about disconnecting him.
Yeah, but that was...
But Al is like... You're talking about it, I'm thinking of other movies that do the exact same thing that came out later, like Aliens. And it just shows how influential this really is.
Yeah, I mean, this is... like I said, like, everybody knows about Hal, Or they get the imagery.
And the look is so simple, but it's so unique at the same time that you recognize it as soon as you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard one, isn't it?
It is. And with both of the Stanley Kubrick movies that I've seen, The Shining and 2001, I feel like I walk away having more questions than answers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does make me...
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it does make me think about the movie long after I've seen it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but just to clarify, we've seen this once, so this is not like an in-depth analysis or anything. We definitely need to see it more times to actually understand everything, or try to.
Yeah, because
this is just the first watch, so you're getting like an immediate reaction from us.
Yeah, because, we haven't seen a ton of classics, or like, I feel like I haven't, and I feel like this is a classic.
I haven't seen a big classic for the first time in a while, so this felt different.
Yeah.
Like, I'll watch old movies, but never the classic ones. I'll just watch stuff that I find.
Yeah, exactly. And this feels so... It came out in 1968, which I think is absolutely insane because it doesn't really feel like it came out in 1968. It still feels a little old and dated with some of the effects and stuff, kind of as to be...
But still, the effects are way ahead of its time.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't really feel like a 1968 movie. It kind of feels like a later 80s kind of movie to me.
So I've seen movies from the 2000s with worse looking monkeys, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. For a second, at the very beginning, I was kind of like, oh, like documentary type stuff. And then the monkeys like started interacting in ways that I was like, this isn't.
Yeah, but it works.
It does.
For what it's trying to do.
No, but it did make me pause and was like, are these like actual monkeys, or are these just people in monkey suits? I'm not really sure.
They're really good monkey suits.
Yeah.
The sounds are also really good. I don't know how they did the sounds for this. I didn't look it up. But the sounds for the monkeys work a lot. We're focusing on the monkeys like it's the most important part.
Yeah, but even I saw some things about how influential this is, to a point where a lot of different movies that I hadn't even realized copied these types of scenes, or copied stuff similar to it. Like, for example, I'll give you two examples that popped up. Zoolander, surprisingly, they have the computer in the Zoolander movie, and they beat it.
We're comparing two masterpieces now.
They beat the computer in a similar way of like the monkeys beating the other monkey dead when they figure out how to use.
They beat the crap out of that monkey.
Yeah, exactly. And then another one was the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the remake, the one with Johnny Depp. They have the TV part where Mike TV and Charlie are like the last two kids, and Willy Wonka's like, oh, we made this machine that if you see a chocolate bar, you can just zap it and then you can pull it out of your TV. And they have it set up so it's like that scene when the monolith appears in the prehistoric times, and you kind of see it. Like, the scene is very similar. So I just thought those were kind of two kind of random, kind of interesting movies that took inspiration from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Like, I wouldn't really think.
Yes, I think this is the biggest outcome of the movie. It's how impactful it was, more than the movie itself. I think that the legacy is bigger.
Oh, for sure.
To me personally, I know some people absolutely love the movie, but I think the impact that he had is more important.
I agree. And I think that it's so unique, I would say, in terms of its visual appeal as well as the audio, because the audio really kind of makes the movie. I don't know.
Yeah.
It really sets the tone, because
I think the visual and the audio work really well, but then the script isn't my favorite thing. Like, the actual words they speak.
Interesting.
And the story, I guess I'm not, like, super sold on the story.
Oh, controversial.
It's not my favorite movie.
Right, yeah.
I wouldn't say it's controversial. There's people that absolutely hate it because it is 2.5 hours and there's barely any talking.
That's true.
That's not gonna sit well with a lot of people.
No, it doesn't, because my sister came in and watched the last like 30 minutes with me, and she immediately was like, I hate this. I was like, you've only watched a very short amount of time with this movie. But I do think that it's a very hard movie.
But she didn't even catch the second act. The second act is the one that drags the most.
Yeah. But then also, fun story about this, I bought this at the thrift store, our copy at the thrift store, and the person that was ringing me up was like, oh, I watched this movie back when it came out in theaters for the first time. I was in high school. And they were like, I fell asleep. I was like, okay. And then, like, I tried to watch it 3 more times since then. Fell asleep every time. Maybe you'll make it through it. So I did make it through it without
It's always fun
asleep.
to get these types of opinions.
Yeah.
I remember, like, someone, I'm not going to say who, but they said they watched Pulp Fiction when it came out. You were there. Remember this?
Maybe. Gotta say
and
more.
They said they absolutely hated Pulp Fiction and they didn't get it at all. So they never got into Tarantino movies after that. But they liked The Hateful Eight. Yes, I think they did.
Oh, wait, are you talking about my mom?
Yeah, they don't want to say.
Oh, that's funny. I forgot about that.
And also, at a thrift store, I remember talking to someone that said, like, Snatch was one of their favorite movies.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And that I needed to snatch it up and watch it. And your sister also absolutely hated Snatch.
Yeah, but she
said something like, really, this is the one that someone like took their time to recommend at a store to a stranger?
Well, to be fair, her favorite movies are like the Barbie movies. So, you know.
Now talk about your other sister here.
I didn't know she didn't like Snatch. But I guess I kind of get that one. That one's also, I think, a little bit you have to be in the mood to watch it, I guess.
Oh, I'm always in the mood to watch Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yeah.
Even if I don't like him.
Yeah, I guess.
Speaking of Guy Ritchie, Wrath of Man just came out. It's not good, but I love it. It's really fun, but it's not great, but it's really fun. So it was worth the ticket.
You also love his Aladdin adaptation, you know?
Okay, but that's his studio movie, right? Yeah. It's the same thing with Kubrick doing Spartacus.
Yeah.
He didn't really do Spartacus because he wanted to do Spartacus. That was a studio film that he needed to do. Or Spike Lee doing the remake of Oldboy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you're right.
It's studio projects. Sometimes when you're a director, you just gotta do what the studio wants, so they fund your next movie that you actually want to do.
That's very true.
And for Guy Ritchie, that's Aladdin 2 coming out 2022.
Oh, God. But back to 2001: A Space Odyssey, since that's what we're really here for. I do think that universally it's very significant.
Yes. And it's universally loved. Even there's a little hate group for it.
There is.
And outside of, cinephilia, people that are not super into movies, I guess they're not going to love it.
No, I don't think it would be.
But even people that are into movies, some hate it.
Yeah, I feel like it is.
Or just not hate, but just dislike. You're allowed to dislike a movie.
Yeah, I think it's a little... I can see how it being hard to like as kind of a casual movie viewer. But I also... I mean, there are people that I know that I wouldn't really expect them to like this movie, but they do. But I think that has more to do with it has very similar, like, Stargate vibes, and
it feels like a slowed down Star Trek episode.
Yeah. Yes.
Like if I play a Star Trek episode at half speed, not nearly as good, but
right. No, but I can see like the parallels of how like Star Trek or Stargate or...
Yeah, but they never managed to look this good.
No,
or be this just
thought-provoking.
Emotionally provoking.
Then I'm not going to hate on Stargate, because that movie is like... The Stargate movie is actually like kind of good. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but...
I have not.
It's okay.
I am not into sci-fi.
It's like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it is true. And I'm not even going to talk about Star Wars.
Maybe one day.
No, I will not talk about Star Wars.
Well, I gave this movie an 8 out of 10, which some might consider low. Letterboxd, I feel like, certainly does. But
if you don't give it a 10, you're scum.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like I can't give it a 10 because I don't give things a 10 unless I know I would be able to either look back on... I don't know. My 10s are very reserved.
Same.
So, and I'm not sure about, again, I feel like I have to watch it again, and I have to have a few days to think about it, because...
Definitely gotta watch it again. That's for sure.
Because even after I watched The Shining, which I kind of love The Shining. I've only seen it once, though, but I didn't necessarily love it after I finished it. It wasn't until I was, like, thinking about it more and more and more that I was like, okay.
Honestly, I think The Shining sits more with you.
Maybe.
Than 2001.
But I have been, constantly going back in my head about the ending, especially in 2001, or like Hal's motivation, or whether it really was human error that made him want to kill everybody, or what,
Yeah, no, I get you. This is extremely hard for me to give a numerical value to, but I also gave it an 8. Yeah, it was never going to be a 10 for me, just from the start. It's not my type of movie. I wasn't bothered by the length or the pacing. Like, I was fine with it. Mm-hmm. I was fine with it because it looked pretty as it did it. Like, if you're going to not talk and be really slow, at least look pretty, and it did. The set design was great.
I agree.
So, yeah, I'm not sure if it's rewatchable, but I will rewatch it because it's kind of necessary at this point. And I think it's easier to digest the second time, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, well,
I might be left with more questions.
We'll definitely have to see when we watch it again at some point in the future.
I'm probably not going to let you know. But if you want to know our ratings before the episodes come out, you can always follow us on Letterboxd.
Yes.
And make sure to also follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even YouTube if you want to stay up to date with all the episodes. They come out once a week, but sometimes they do a little weekend episode. A little 5-6 minutes, just to make you sit tightly until Monday when the full episodes come out. And you can always suggest movies they want us to talk about. We've talked about movies that people suggested before, so you might be one of the lucky ones or unlucky ones. And yeah, it's our take. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, we love to hear what people think about our picks that we talk about. So that's all for this episode, and we'll see you next episode.